Welcome to Trayton's tutorial on making moving objects in a map. Quite a few people have expressed that they like to make moving objects, and I'm definitely known for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and give a quick tutorial. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up into my map editor. And I'm going to delete everything in the map. Now, when building moving objects, you do not want to build off of the center. Do you see this little blue purple dot? If you build off of there, you will be trapped into there. So the first thing I do is I make a basic orbit. Today we're going to be making a car, I think. We'll make a car with moving wheels. Maybe a horse, I don't know. Anyway, so you start with an orbit. This is going to be our central orbit. Everything we build is going to be based off of this orbit, and when we move this orbit, we'll be able to move everything with it. And I'll show you an example right now. So see, even though this is our central orbit, this is moving with it. And one thing to keep in mind, if you don't want this thing colliding, you have to zero out the orbit it's attached to. Now, let's say we like this. We like this little top hat design, but we want to add it to a bigger overall design, like multiplayer. I can now drag this design onto this orbit and duplicate it. See symmetry? Now I've got 3 of them. Now this is the central orbit. If I take it off, boom. Now anytime I want to edit the main structure, I always remove it. Because if you edit it with symmetry on, you can end up with all kinds of goofy things happening. So I like to remove it from its orbit. Let's go ahead and try to build that car we talked about. Circularness, we'll bring that down. Maybe I'll build... motorcycles are a lot easier than cars. Well, let's do it. Let's try for a car though. Okay, so that kind of looks like the beginning of a car. If you're wondering how to draw it, just look at skeleton structures of basically just drawing. Like somebody wants to make a piece of artwork, they have to start with a skeleton structure, like of a person or whatever. It's the same exact thing. The other thing I like to do is, so let's say I'm happy with the way this one looks. I'll come in here, I'll duplicate it, and I'll bring it over here. Now what you don't want to do is use symmetry. If you use symmetry, you're going to end up not being able to edit what planets are on each side. You're not going to be stuck into whatever symmetry feature it gives you. The other problem is once you actually start getting into the moving orbit part, so let's say this is my wheel. If I use symmetry, they're going to rotate the opposite direction, and I can't fix that. So use symmetry very sparingly. So this is a place that I don't mind using symmetry. Let's say I just want to add additional moons to make it look like a tire. No big deal to add it here. The other thing, it's a tire. Tires move fast, so let's increase that speed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, oops, I did not mean to delete that. Let's try again. Alright, so I'm bringing that up. Adding my moons. Again, if you want planets on this, you don't want to use symmetry. Symmetry, let's go with 5. Now rather than delete it this time, we're going to duplicate it. We'll bring it down here. Now depending on which way you want this vehicle to move will depend on which way you flip your orbits, because we're going to have to flip these orbits to make them make sense, and you'll see that in a second. So I'm going to bring all of these over here. Now, I've got my baseline to my car built. So now what I want to do is any item that I don't want moving and colliding, I need to zero out the orbits. So I definitely don't want that moving. This is where the wheels are attached. I don't want this moving. This is the body of the car. These I do want moving. Go ahead and delete that. Get it out of my way for now. All right. So we have the basics of a car right now. So let's go ahead and add a home planet, or it's not going to let me play it. Save it, and then look at our results. All right, as you can see, right now the wheels are all moving that direction, which works just fine for me. So right now we have the very basics of a car. Now I'm going to show you how to make the entire car move. First thing I notice is it's a little big. A trick you can use is hold the lock button on your controller and pull it in and out. That will make it so you're not moving your orbits around by accident. Okay, so I made my car a little bit smaller. Let's go ahead and bring these wheels into a little bit. We'll mess with the power and the planets and all that stuff later. Right now we just want to get the basic sketch and outline. So this is what I'm talking about with duplicate. I changed that. I know I'm happy with it, so I'm just going to duplicate it over and delete the old one. So now they're matching and they're kind of pointed the same direction. Now I plan on eventually making this turn into itself, so you see you can kind of mess with this and you can mess with the wheel angles and stuff like that. But right now let's just get this whole car moving forward. So I'm going to make another orbit and we'll place it out here. Then I will reduce the circularness and attach it somewhere out here. Now I'm just doing this for show. Ideally you'd want to integrate this into your design. But let's go ahead and see if it works so you can kind of get an idea. Now this is how I did dirt bike race. So now you see the entire car is moving and the wheels are moving with the car. Now obviously it's moving pretty fast and it's going to be difficult to control troops when the orbits are moving this fast. So that was just for an example. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the giant orbit that I just made. First I got to find it. I think it's right here. Nope. Right there. There we go. Yep. See? Then I can go ahead and delete this orbit. And I'm going to make myself a new orbit. So this time I'm going to use the sun. This is going to be the central. Remember, we're not attaching it to here. Then we get stuck. If you want to do that at the very end, go for it. But I would not do it while you're building. So I'm going to bring this out. Maybe about here. And attach this to it. Now is the time we can use our symmetry feature. Now we've got 3 cars and 1 object over the limit. So this is the danger of making moving objects, is it's very easy to go over the limit. So we will make 2 objects for now. We'll just make them circling each other like race cars. Now I want to show you something that's going to happen. These are not actually going to correct themselves. They're going to end up facing outwards. So I'm going to speed everything up just so you can see it. So if you look here, it doesn't actually look like cars going around a track. It looks more like a track pulling around cars because the cars aren't turning. This is great if you just want things to orbit each other, moving objects to kind of do a duel battle or something like that. Turkey versus Duck used to do this. And you can see as it's running, I made a mistake here. I didn't zero this orbit out. So now this tire is going to end up inside the car. It's going to look goofy. But that's all right. Those are easy to fix. Let's go ahead and edit it again. Make sure that these are zeroed. Now remember, even though symmetry is on, it's going to change both sides. It's best just to remove the object. Zero out whatever orbit you messed up on. and then replace the object. Now, rather than replace it, I want it to actually move in a circle. There's two ways you can do that. You can kind of angle it into each other, or you can add a smaller orbit here, attach it to the smaller orbit, and it's going to turn the entire item as it orbits, or at least we hope. Let's go ahead and find out if it does that. I'm actually going to increase this. Uh-oh, I'm an object over again. Let's see. This might be tricky. Let's go ahead and reduce these down by 1. I think I am actually orbit object over, not just... Let's find out. 1 object over the limit. Alright. So I'm going to try this. Sometimes this works. Reduce your symmetry to none. You duplicate this, and this will really let you know if it's an object issue. Yeah, it is. Alright, so we have a problem. Now you've got to change your design to match the object limit. So we already know that set it over, just adding that single orbit. So at this point, you kind of got to make a decision. Do you want them to circle each other? Personally, I don't. You could angle the wheels in. Oh, that's where the problem is, right there. Look at that. I have duplicate orbits. This happens a lot. Let's go ahead and check this one. Look at that. Alright, that should fix the problem. No problem. I thought that we had more to work with. I was a little confused. Look at that. Works just fine. Take out 8 orbits and it works great. Alright. Let's go ahead and increase that and see what it does. Alright, not quite the effect we wanted. We wanted the entire vehicle to turn. So we did it off the wrong axis. Let's see. Right now I'm just thinking, is there a way to do this? Anytime we do this, it's just going to move this object as a whole. We want it to rotate. The only way to make this object rotate would be to do... Uh-oh, we found another duplicate orbit. Gotta be careful with those. Would be to rotate that like this. Circularness a little less. Now if we play it... Okay, that's not really going to work, because what would end up happening is these wheels would collide with each other. But I do like the look better. So now we could add a steering wheel, things like that. Let's see how that looks. We'll come up here. Of course, now that we don't have duplicate orbits, we should have enough to actually build this. The more detailed you get with your design, though, the less that you're going to be able to duplicate this design and bring it over so you can have more than one player. Go ahead and zero that speed out. Add a moon. Again, I sketch everything out in moons, so I can easily come back and fix it, or add planets as I want. Anytime you want a orbit showing up, you absolutely have to put an object on it, or the orbit will not show up. All right, that's kind of like a little go-kart. I can live with that. Kind of come in here, straighten the lines up. Unfortunately, I can't really make this circle small enough, so it's going to be an angled go-kart wheel. Because I'm struggling to make this go-kart turn, I think what we will do is just have these go-karts race in a line, kind of like dirt bike race. I know that's kind of, I don't know, maybe, because these are going to move like this. This is how you tell how something's going to move without actually playing it. And you can just drag it along the orbit. What you could do, though, so let's create a couple orbits here. We will have them kind of passing each other like they're racing, rather than a linear like dirt bike race. Let's go to radius, circularness, bring this down a bunch. Okay, so I think this is the line we're going to race along. I want them crossing between each other, so we're going to have to do 2 of those. Duplicate it and bring it over. What you don't want is you don't want a bunch of collisions, so this part's going to get tricky. We'll bring this over to there. Duplicate it. We didn't reach the orbit limit, it's by some miracle. And bring this over here. Now we've got a couple of buggies racing each other. They're probably going to be too close, so let's go ahead and bring this out. Anytime I want to center things, I will just simply add this. Bring it down to that. Uh-oh. I lost internet connection. So this is probably going to get deleted. Alright, so bring it down to this. And of course I don't want to keep that orbit, so I'm just going to put it right above it. And then go ahead and delete this central orbit. Alright, go ahead and increase my speed. Again, this is probably going to be deleted because I lost internet connection, but let's check. Okay. I've got internet again. Joys of having satellite. Save it. Okay. The screen blanked, so that means it's saved. And look at that. We've got 2 racing buggies. So let's say you want to do a merry-go-round or something like that. You could kind of do this. This is what the horses do. They jump in and out of each other like this. Then the other thing, if you wanted to do even more of a merry-go-round effect, let's just pretend these are horses and not cars. We can add 1 more orbit here. Bring this up. Reduce our circularness. Again, be careful about reducing circularness because you will get collision. Now I'm going to attach that here. And I'm going to make it really fast just so you can see it. This is probably not where I would leave it though. So now you kind of got your merry-go-round post here. Go ahead and save it. And you'll watch it go up and down as it goes back and forth. So just like the horses that move up and down, this is going to move up and down in the same way. And the key really is to build everything off of a central orbit like that. All right, so let's move on. I'm pretty happy with where it's at right now. Let's say I did most of my editing on this side. I don't like how fast this is, so I'm going to go ahead and reduce this. That was just for show. Now what I could do, go ahead and delete this. Because I have a exact side, I can duplicate it. Look at that. And I've got the entire structure with me right here. Now obviously, merry-go-rounds aren't synchronized. One's going up and one's going down at different times. So I'd probably want to start this one at the bottom. And I would clean up and edit the orbits to make it look prettier. But if you look now, One's going to be coming up as the other one's going to be coming down. Now that I've done that, this is the time where you kind of want to start deciding where you want home planets, stuff like that. Right now I just have a home planet floating out here, so the game will let me save it. So I'm a big fan of putting them right in the center of a wheel. So let's put the home planet there. Save it, go back out. Now we can duplicate it to whatever amount of players we want. This looks a little messy right now, so I'd probably get rid of some of the rings. Let's say, honestly, I'd probably get rid of the up-down ring for the go-karts because it's not necessary. And that's pretty easy. You literally just drag it out of that. Delete that orbit we added. Done. Just like that. And of course, you're going to want to try to incorporate whatever you build into the design so it doesn't look goofy. Um, so let's just do this for now. We'll bring... I think what we'll do is we'll actually do off the central orbit here. Go like that. Obviously, you're always working near the object limit when you're building like this. Alright, so actually I think I'm just going to exit out and not save. Because I'm just trying to do a tutorial, not make it look perfect. I'll spend forever trying to make it look perfect. Alright, let's go ahead and clone this over to the 6-player map. And go and edit it. Now what I'm going to do is I have symmetry off. Remember that, that's important. Because now I can go through and add my planets and make them whatever color I want without them acting all goofy. If you're using symmetry at this point, you'll try to add a planet and it's not going to let you pick the color. It just does all kinds of weird things. It's not fun. So obviously putting it on the wheels with the amount of orbits I have didn't really work out, but that's fine. I'm going to roll with it. These guys are just going to have an advantage right now. And purple. Alright. So now that I got everybody in there, go ahead and watch it run. And look at that. You got all the teams. The go-karts are racing. They're doing their up-down thing, kind of like they're in a merry-go-round. Obviously, there's a lot more you can do. Map Creator is a pretty fun tool, especially if you like a challenge. But this is part 1. Have a good day.